This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we're continuing our coverage, our analysis of the Boston Marathon bombing, and joining us in that pursuit right now is our next guest, Richard Weitz. He's director of the Hudson Institute Center for Political Military Analysis and an expert in international security and counterterrorism. And Richard, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Okay, first of all, going away from Boston to north of the border, we have two people charged today in an al-Qaeda-supported plot. The threat was against passenger trains. The Police Commissioner Kelly here in New York told me just a little while ago that he had been aware of this plot and the fact that these people were being watched for quite some time. He didn't give me a definitive time. The suspects, they say, were receiving direction and guidance from al-Qaeda elements in Iran, according to the Canadian police. It seems like, although they say there was no connection to Boston, certainly, it just seems that things are picking up now. Is there a reason for that?
I think this plot had been in the work for several years, the one in Canada, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure there is no relationship. And
right.
You know, we've been sustaining these attacks consistently for the past, even before 2001. And it just so happens that the one in Boston worked. The other ones had been thwarted, and so we didn't pay much, attention. But we've all heard of them. The attempt to blow up a car in New York Times Square, the attempt to set off some explosives in a shoe, and so on. But they didn't have much of an impact because they failed.
Right. No. So this is something. So we shouldn't read anything into the fact that we're still recovering from this, and now we find out this disturbing news from Canada. And what about the Iranian connection, though? The al-Qaeda supported link that they're claiming with instructions and help from and guidance from Iran.
Well, they said al-Qaeda elements in Iran.
Okay. So
that doesn't mean the Iranian government.
Right.
Because but it's still too early to tell what they mean by al-Qaeda supported. I mean, so we need to know a bit more about what that relationship was. Was it just inspired, or was there private operational guidance? But most worrisome to me is the fact that they're thinking about hitting us on trains. I mean, those, as we know, are nowhere near as secure as airplanes. And so if they're aiming for soft targets like Boston Marathon or hitting an Amtrak or a train, then this is going to be not good for us. This is going to be these are much harder to protect than airplanes, which are pretty secure now.
Right. All right, Richard, let's talk about, let's get closer to home and talk about Boston and talk about the Chechenian connection. Do you believe, based on what you know so far, that this is more of a Chechnyan protest, Chechnyan, so independent supported type of attack, or that it was more of a jihadist attack, the typical kind of radical Islamic attack that we're used to hearing about and seeing? No doubt that well, I shouldn't say no doubt, but good chance he received some training when he went back to the region. But do you believe the motivation was Chechnyan linked or more Islamic in nature?
I definitely believe the latter. I mean, they were ethnic Chechen by background, but they'd spent most of their time elsewhere, either in Muslim Soviet Union or former Soviet Union or in the United States. I believe that just like the Chechen independence cause itself, these guys, particularly the older brother, was swept up in the jihadist line narrative rather than any attempt to promote Chechen independence. I mean, if anything, this is going to backfire. It's going to turn people who in the U.S. who are not necessarily hostile to Chechen independence against them. So I'm pretty sure he had just become radicalized either here or through the internet or when he was there. They're going to have to find that out.
Right.
And that caused him to employ the same kind of the tactics that the insurgents, not so much in Chechnya, but in the neighboring republics, are now employing against Russia, here in the U.S.
We're talking to Richard Weitz, director of the Hudson Institute Center for Political Military Analysis, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, having said that, do you believe that these two brothers acted alone? When I say acted alone, I mean with regard to people here, helping them on the ground. We know there were two people in custody on immigration violations. There's some speculation that they may have done something. Commissioner Kelly referred to the fact that they may have done something to help hide them, or they knew about it after the fact and didn't say anything. But do you believe that these bombs could be built, the money could be gained, the training could be had? These are two brothers, and one of them who appears to be very inexperienced and led around by the other. Do you think that that's possible? And plus all the arsenal that they still had on them when they attacked the police during that shootout, and then subsequently, supposedly, more bombs and weaponry were found after the fact. Just two guys?
It is possible. I mean, we can, but as you imply, it can be more plausibly more possible that they received some assistance. We just don't know from what or how. But the kind of assistance they could have received would be self-acquired assistance. I have in mind, for example, going on the internet and learning how to make these bombs, or particularly, we know that this guy was probably the older brother when he was went back to Russia last year in the North Caucasus. He hung out with all the insurgent groups, so he probably learned all his tactics and techniques there. And then acquiring the kind of material to make these kind of pressure cooker bombs, I think you can get it pretty much anywhere. So I don't think there was anything special about that, or even just stockpiling all the weapons away in downtown Boston. But it's possible. We don't know at this point. We'll just have to see.
Let me ask you this. You had mentioned that you doubt that there would have been Chechnya motivated because it would turn the public opinion against them, even though American people don't know too much about it in general. But this would be something that would reflect badly on the Chechnyan cause, quote unquote. Although most terrorists don't seem to think that way. Certainly, Al Qaeda, I guess we were their enemy. They targeted us. But having said that, so do you believe that we're not threatened by Chechen terrorists here at all? I mean, you can't make a blanket statement, but you don't think that that there'll be copycats who are Chechnyan of Chechen ethnicity who want to follow up because you believe that it would be counterproductive to what they're fighting for in their homeland?
Well, here it's complicated because clearly the leadership and those who were supporting Chechen independence were horrified to learn this attack, like the uncle, like the head of the Chechen government in exile, because it just was going to hurt their cause. That said, it's impossible that because of what happened to the brothers, there'll be now more attacks on the U.S. by, I hate to say Chechens, maybe North Caucasus groups. And it's also possible that people who oppose this resistance movement would want to make attacks and try and get them attributed to these groups to further turn the U.S. against them.
Okay, well, that's interesting. All right, so let's just sum up here. And what do you think when the investigation comes to fruition? What do you think they're going to find here? You think they're going to find we're going to find that these two people, did basically, as you said, manage to do it mostly on their own? You think we're going to find any kind of cell? And do you believe that that there are, sleeper cells here in this country that we've talked about for years, whether they're Hezbollah or others, Al Qaeda, or any kind of homegrown cells that we find from time to time, whether that cell is 2 or 3 or 5 or 10? I mean, do you believe that we're going to find that some kind of cell was involved with this?
Well, I'm pretty sure there are insurgents, jihadist cells in the U.S. operating, collecting intelligence, money, planning attacks. I mean, we're aware of that. These guys, I think the most plausible thing that happened was the older brother became dissatisfied with the United States for whatever reason, became involved in the extremist jihadist, Muslim views, went back to the North Caucasus, got trained or swept up or involved with these insurgents groups, but instead of attacking Russian targets, he decided to come and attack the United States. And it's possible they encouraged him to do so, and since there's a lot of international actors involved. There are al-Qaeda, people from the Gulf, and so on. Now, the assistance part, I just don't know, because it's possible they managed to do most of this without getting direct assistance, but they also could have gotten the assistance. And that's the part I don't know. I think that's the part we're going to have to keep an eye out for in the next few days. All
right, Richard, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Richard Weitz, ladies and gentlemen, Director of the Hudson Institute Center for Political Military Analysis.